This month's been pretty good for me. I actually got 2 new guitars. Hopefully you've seen my Piezo video, but hopefully now I have completed a collection for a while anyway. Shortly after I did my video on the unicorn list, one of those guitars came up for sale, and with a bit of negotiating I got it for a fair price. The downside was that it was in Norway and I was a bit apprehensive about buying it, and there were some difficulties, but in the end I took a chance and went for it, and then the guitar got lost. So I was expecting it to maybe take a week or 2 to get to me. After about 6 weeks, I'd just about given up hope, and I was about to ask the seller to maybe ask the postal company to reimburse my money. Then the tracking finally updated and it reached the UK, and a few days later the guitar was in my hands. So without further ado, we have the Ibanez RG2077xl Prestige. This guitar is one of the original long neck baritone Ibanez 7 strings. It's around 17 years old. It was made in 2003 in the Fujigen factory in Japan. And it's in this stunning royal blue finish, which is kind of a gloss, kind of sparkle, metallic blue. For its age, it's in really good condition. It does have some chips on the body. None of them particularly worrying, you know, there's something you'd expect from a guitar of this age. The only one that's a tiny bit disappointing is right here on the binding, but I guess it's not that noticeable. It still doesn't spoil the sleek looks of this guitar. Other than that, the only slight issue which the seller did warn me about is that it has a bit of hum when it's plugged in. He did offer to rewire it before he sent it, but to be honest, it's a quick job that I can do myself, so I'm not too worried about it. It's either a grounding issue or something to do with the input jack, which I'm probably going to replace anyway. A reminder of the feature of this guitar: it's a basswood body. It has a maple and Babinga neck and a rosewood fretboard. It has this lovely binding around the outside, which is kind of a cream colour on the body and white on the neck. It's a 27-inch baritone scale length, so it's ideal for low tunings, which is what I intend for this guitar. It has stock DiMarzio pickups, but it also has a Lundgren M7 in the bridge, which is a beautiful pickup. It has an Edge Pro tremolo, which I'll talk a little bit more about shortly, as I have said a few times about my dislike for tremolos, but there's a method to my madness here. My initial impressions on the way it sounds: it's got a really nice low end to this guitar. It seems to have a nice affinity with sort of dual rectifier style sims. I tried it with my Kempro Max effects and it seemed to gravitate towards those kind of dual rec kind of sounds, but it's got a lot of chunk, and it's in B standard currently, and I was getting some really heavy tones out of it. So initial impressions are that this is a great example of a great guitar. My plan for this guitar is for it to be a bit of a mod project, however nothing irreversible. So I intend for this guitar to be in drop F or G standard, so it's going to need a little bit of work to get it to accept that tuning and be quite solid in it. Fortunately, its specs lend it to that kind of tuning with the long baritone neck. That should help. So let's look at some of those modifications. The first one will be to block the tremolo with this tremolo from All Parts. Now you may say, what's the point of getting a guitar with a trem if you're just going to block it anyway? More on that shortly. And once the trem's blocked, it becomes effectively a fixed bridge guitar. I'll then be able to install these Gotto locking tuners. Come in a pack of 6, but I found a place that sells them individually, so I've got 7. I prefer the action on hip shot locking tuners. However, in the interests of making these mods reversible, these should be a straight swap for the stock tuners. The stocks are Gotto SG381 and these are 381 MGT, which is the locking versions, the same angle on the drill hole, etc. As tune as low as F, I'm going to be using thicker gauge strings. I may get away with it with these tuners, however, if not, I will need to drill one of them out to accept the thicker string gauge. I'm more or less going to rewire the whole thing, but I have a new barrel jack which is modified slightly to fit. Now the guitar has a middle single core pickup. It's a HSH setup, but I would quite like to have a coil split, so I've got more options with these. And probably the most ambitious mod is to install a Piezo system into this guitar, which brings me on to the reason for opting for a guitar with a tremolo. Now Ibanez have sold guitars with Piezo systems before, and they use the double edge tremolo. Now this is an Edge Pro tremolo. The double edge was effectively one of these, but the saddles had piezo elements made by a company called LR Bags. And LR Bags mainly do piezo bridges and acoustic guitar under saddle bridges and those kind of hole pickups, which I don't know what they're called, but they basically specialise in acoustic guitar pickups. Now what some people on forums have been able to do is to take the Edge Pro tremolo and retrofit it to become a double edge by replacing the saddles with the LR bag's piezo elements. And normally when you fit a piezo system into a guitar, you have to drill into the body or create a cavity for the piezo wires to run into the back of the guitar. But a tremolo already has that cavity, so it will be no extra work or drilling to run the piezo wires back into the control cavity here. And with a block tremolo, it won't affect the way the guitar plays. Now, LR bags don't openly sell the piezo elements on their website, but I got in contact with them and I managed to buy these tiny little guys there. So I managed to get 7 of these, and these should just replace the saddles in the Edge Pro tremolo. As to how it's going to be wired, I've got a couple of options for that, but I'm going to try the Graphtec passive system and see how that works. But it's going to take a bit of experimentation for how I end up wiring this inside the guitar. I'd rather not have an onboard preamp and a battery if possible. And this guitar only has 2 points on the front without re-drilling it, so a volume pot and a tone pot currently. I don't need the tone pot. I could change the tone pot for a switch to activate and deactivate the piezo, or I could have a piezo volume knob there. There's a big difference in impedance between a piezo pickup and a magnetic pickup, so I have a higher value potentiometer to hopefully address that issue. And I'm toying with the idea of installing this inside the control cavity because it's very small and I don't really need to adjust the piezo volume. I always just usually have it on full. So if that can be concealed inside the control cavity, then I can fit a switch on the front. It'd be quite a neat install. Hopefully this will turn what is already a great guitar into an absolute monster. So by the time I make the next video, this should already be making nasty drop F tones. So stick with the series and hopefully the guitar stays with us too.